Hey guys, welcome back to Musings with Mary channel, where I try to use a more historical-based view to watch the anime Vinland Saga. So last episode, we got a brief taste of what continental Europe was doing at this point with Askeladd's sort of invasion into France, or I guess the Frankish Empire, I guess you could say they were called during that time. Well, technically not true, but anyways, that's schematics at this point. But anyways, they had a successful outing, and now they're headed back, where presumably either Thorfinn and Askeladd have their duel, maybe learn a bit more about what Thorfinn has been doing for these few years and what are his aspirations and whatnot, or we could just skip time ahead and prepare for King Sweyn Forkbeard's invasion into England, right? Personally, I'm really looking forward to that latter part because it's something that's not typically referred to that much in historical works, and it's just a very interesting time period during that time of England and Scandinavia, right? But of course, I'd also be eager to learn a little bit more about Thorfinn and Askeladd's relationship with each other, because that's also quite unique in a certain kind of way. Anyways, let's get into the episode right now. Alrighty, beginning in 3, 2, 1, play. I also, due to you guys mentioning about Askeladd, I did look up, where he kept referring to a certain someone as his ancestor. So I did actually look that up, and apparently it's referring to to a Roman general of some sort, who is apparently also the sort of archetype for King Offer. The man, the myth, the legend, King Offer, right? So, thank you for pointing that out to me. That is definitely really interesting. I guess that's why Askeladd is always wearing that sort of armor. Maybe a reference to his ancestors. Maybe it's something his family passed down to him. Fatten them up. Okay. I'm guessing that they're going to duo here. Alright, let me skip this real quick. And back. Norse villages. Jutland Peninsula. Come on, Thorfinn, no need to be rude. Really? Wow, really? Okay. Uncle Go. Yeah, I think they can. Okay, so that's why he was saying that he's being screwed. Being quite cheap, basically. Okay. Oh. There we go. An actual duel. Yeah, so that's how he's, he's very pragmatic. Okay, we're actually gonna get a full-on battle this time. And yeah, that armor here. So I thought it was just a stylistic choice, but ooh. Again, I'm kind of curious. Like, is this actually their first deal after all this time? Like, is this a monthly thing, an yearly thing? Or is this the first time after all this time? But then again, Askeladd was the one who went nearly toe-to-toe before. Hmm. Is he trying to purposely anger him? Playing some mind games now? Yeah, he's definitely trying to. いや。正々堂々戦えば、父上は貴様なんかに負けなかった。貴様はあの時、俺を。俺を人質に。ああ、はいはい、思い出した。ガキの命と引き換えに剣を捨てた。バカだ。Oh, there we go. Cool your head. Did he break his arm? What? Definitely getting into his head there. See, that's what I like about him. He's strong, but he uses his head as well. Now, here's the question. Since he's making this entire, thing about anyone can be usable, I'm thinking that maybe that slave that was mentioned a bit earlier. No, so Forfin's on the guarding the ship right now. Hmm. You still want to. He's got too much honor. Ah. And what are you a slave to, Askeladd? Like, what are your motivations and whatnot? his past as well? Aww. This is interesting. So actually, deep down, he actually, because this is all in his own mind, right? So Forfin isn't actually, completely lost it in hatred. Is this going to be the romantic interest of Forfin? Hmm. Hmm. Well. Hmm. Vinland? Okay. The land of the free. About that. Hmm. I like how, they were just talking about everybody is a slave to something. And then this girl comes and says Forfin seems like a slave as well, right? They were just mentioning that he's a slave to his past, to his pride, his honor. Oh. Oh. And who are you? Ah, it's August! Time for the invasion. Oh, is this... This? Alright, slain Forker. Canute the Great! Oh, is that the guy? Was Canute already that? I seem to recall Canute was somewhere between. I think he wasn't even 15 yet at this time. True. Early Scandinavian royalty wasn't quite hereditary. It's basically, whoever can actually back it up gets to be the king. Is this Canute? Seems to be a pretty boy. Okay. They're going through this rather fast. Yeah, right outside London. Okay. Okay. We're getting a big battle. I think maybe next episode. Or you? Well, there's only a few people. I mean, if it's historical characters, there's only a few people that they could be referencing right now. Anyways, I'll see you guys after the episode. I mean, after skipping the ending. Alrighty, so we got introduced to some new characters within this episode, right? And especially at the very end, with that dude standing there, he looks Norse, so I'm assuming that that dude is probably Thorkel the Tall, right? One of who is actually also a pretty interesting character as well. So anyways, just again to give some context on that situation, the anime explained a lot of it already, but basically during that time, with Kingswain Forkbeard's invasion, England did not really put up much of a battle, right? So they basically did go wherever they went, met with little opposition. They gained hostages and tribute from all the different areas that they went to. Eventually, they were stopped in London. Yes, outside of London by the combined forces of King Ethelred, as well as Thorkel, who at that time served as a mercenary under King Ethelred. Although it is kind of interesting, the entire story of Thorkel is very interesting because prior to becoming a mercenary for King Ethelred, he was actually one of the Vikings that were invading England up to that point. And in fact, it's even said that probably he contributed to, the gradual weakening of England to the point where they could not put any resistance up against Kingswain Forkbeard. And so how he exactly became a mercenary under King Alfred. That is one of the many mysteries of history, and it's really hard to get an exact account of what actually happened, because we don't really have that many historical texts that survived during that point. Most of the history that we know of comes from two different sources. One would be the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, which, as the name might imply, are heavily biased towards Anglo-Saxon history, as a lot of history is always. And then we also have the various Norse sagas, which I already explained in the first episode. They can be fairly unreliable on their own as well, especially since most of them were passed down through oral tradition and not explicitly written down. And not to mention, they were sagas. They were basically stories. So how historically accurate are they actually? Hard to say, right? But anyways, so Forkel is this dude who, even though at that time so basically with the combined forces of King Ethelred and Forkel, they managed to hold the invasion army at bay. But King Sweyn Forkspirit went like, okay, screw this, and then he went basically around to the entire countryside surrounding London, and basically got the surrender or tribute and hostages from all the other thanes and earls and whatnot in the surroundings. And so eventually the people of London, knowing that their situation was hopeless, decided to surrender as well, and King Ethelred was sent into exile, and Forkel the Tall, he presumably, during that point, then entered into service under Canute, actually. So it's kind of funny, because the entire history, at least according to the Norse sagas, is that Forkel is actually one of the Jomsviking, the exact same Jomsvikings that we've been hearing about a lot, and that's prominent throughout this anime. And apparently he's also one of the tutors of Canute as well, and so presumably that is why he later on was willing to enter service under Canute once he eventually became king. And that is actually not that far off, because, spoiler alert, Sweyn Forkspirit has less than half a year to live, right? So he basically conquered England by Christmas, and then early the following year he died, and Canute became the king, King Canute the Great. Although then there were some more complications, which led to him, sort of being chased out and then back again, and then so it's a messy time of history, right? But that also means that there's going to be a lot of conflict, a lot of battles that we can look forward to. So yeah, I'm 99% sure that dude we saw at the end is actually Forkel the Tall. And speaking of which, King Canute, well, he's not king yet, Canute, right? So when I first saw that dude with the long hair, I first thought that was actually a female. I thought that we were actually going to be getting some shield maidens within this anime. So, but apparently not. Based on the context and what, I'm guessing that dude is Canute, which is, I was initially a little bit put off by, not put off, but that wasn't my first thought when looking at that. That character, because I had thought that Canute during that time was around the age of Thorfinn, right? Like around 13 years old, 15 years old, and that character looked like a fully grown man, right? But I did some more looking up, and apparently it's not entirely certain when Canute was born, so he could absolutely be of age during that time already. It's not, we don't actually have a factual record of his date of birth. So, okay, cool. I guess, he's just, one of those pretty boys, which actually also ties in with historical context of his, description as well. So yeah, that was why I was initially kind of confused there, but that should be Canute, which is also fun, because, like I said, this from here on, this should be what, 1013 all the way to about 1020. Between that time is basically a time where Canute is basically going back and forth between Scandinavia and England and running to all sorts of places in order to try to consolidate his power as the rightful, eventual rightful king of England. And so yeah, that's something that's very interesting, and I'm assuming that we're going to be accelerating the story along to that part, right? And how exactly does Thorfinn and Askeladd and all that tie into this? I still have no idea. Like, what does Vinland have anything to do with the Norse invasions of England at this time? I have no idea, no clue. So, we'll see, right? At the very least, I'm expecting Thorfinn and Askeladd and the rest to also be England at this time, and probably also participate in some of the campaigns as well. At least that's what I'm expecting to see. And also, since this is an anime after, I'm also expecting them to go for more romanticized versions of of these kinds of events, right? So, presumably, like, if that dude is really Forkel at the very end, and Canute is with the army at this time, which according to historical accounts he is, like, they could possibly, like, meet on the battlefield and something, and then maybe that's the time when Canute is, like, trying to convince him to, hey, why don't you come back and join us again, or something like that, right? Some accounts which we don't actually have any historical knowledge of, presumably, or theoretically, the anime could use its own artistic license to do this kind of thing, which will eventually lead to the actual events following history, but maybe how should I say, the end result is the same, but the process might be a little bit romanticized, right? According to what the author feel would be more fun for us to see. So I'm definitely interested in looking at their take on the situation. And so also in terms of the actual characters here, so I guess it was answered. I think, based on the context of this episode, Thorfinn was not actually challenging Askeladd, like every single month or every single year or something. Based on their dialogue, it seems that it's been a long time since their last duel. And also from the accounts, it seems that Thorfinn actually gets along with Askeladd's men fairly well. Since they even know his mood swings and whatnot, and so he's feeling especially moody at this moment versus him not being as moody. So, I guess that's some fun context, right? And Askeladd, man, I'm loving this character the more and more I see him. Using this guy understands the concept of human resources, right? Every man, every person has their use. You just need to find the right way to approach it, right? And that's how he views Thorfinn as well. He's an asset. No hard feelings. Yeah, sure, maybe it's sort of like a ticking time bomb here, but hey, he's a useful guy. We got uses for him. This is how we can utilize him to the best, right? And that includes the slave as well. Sorry, I kind of blank on her name. But I presume that she's probably going to be a important character as well, otherwise they wouldn't put so much time here. I guess Askeladd at that point was saying, hey, this girl is from nobility, maybe it's not the best idea to ask her to do these sort of household chores that she would never be really skilled at doing, right? Or even if you do want her to do that, you need to give her time to maybe train a little bit more. How about if, I don't know, maybe use her as a sort of, she might be fairly good at taking stock, taking inventory, doing some accounting work, possible, right? And so utilizing people to their full effects. The more I see Askeladd, the more he reminds me of Kakao, actually, from the Three Kingdoms period. There's various different, fictional portrayals of him. There's also factual, historical stuff as well. But by all accounts, I do feel like Askeladd reminds me a lot of Kakao. In his ruthlessness, his pragmatism, and him, still according to his own personal code of honor and whatnot. He just basically doesn't give a shit about how the others feel. He's like, I'm the boss, I make the rules, everybody follow me, and he is great because of it, right? So yeah, great character. I still really much love Askeladd. Probably still my favorite character right now. Oh, not probably. He is still absolutely my favorite character of Vinland Saga so far. And well, looking forward to seeing even more of his expeditions and whatnot, right? I'm assuming that they're going to be joining the actual invasion army, probably in the next episode or something like that. So yeah, and again, if there's, don't spoil me, but do let me know if there's actually something in regards to the Scandinavian invasion of England versus the Vinland sagas, actually Vinland. What exactly is there? Is there an actual correlation there that I'm somehow missing from some sort of historical context? Again, I'm not asking you to spoil me the story. I'm just asking if there is a connection. Maybe point me in what direction I should actually do my research on. Otherwise, I'm failing to see a big connection here. So yeah, that was Vinland Saga episode 8. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time.